Doop-a-doo. There we go. That should improve things significantly. Hello, everybody. Hope you're all well. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm Adam Steele for Hot Pole Studios, and tonight we are going to be mixing another song from the band Banana Ranch. It's been a few days since I've been here. It's been my birthday, so I am now 179 years old, and it's time to run the intro and get having some fun and mixing. There we go. Oh, that's right. I do need to replace that intro video because I've made a new one with new footage, new version of the music, new all sorts of stuff. I just forgot to replace it in OBS because I've been very, very busy. I've been talking to quite a few folks today, trying to make things happen for everybody. Scott from Chernobyl Studios is going to have a present on his doorstep very soon. And he lives a long way from me, so it's not going to be one of those weird, dodgy presents. I've been talking to Glenn Fricker and the guys from Zilla Cabs, so see if something's going to happen there. And so I've got a bass cab coming from Zilla and also this really cool monitor wedge that's actually a guitar cabinet. So very, very excited for all that. And so, yeah, it's been a very, very busy week for me. I've been filming a lot when I've not been taking time off just because it's my birthday and my brain needed a bit of a rest, but I've filmed a lot of stuff. I've got a full video filmed about some really cool DI boxes which I have lying around. They're downstairs, but I'll need to grab one at some point anyway because I'll be playing bass on a song from Banana Ranch. Now, let's just get straight on with things because I am dilly-dallying a little bit. Now let's find exactly where these files are and drop them in and see what we've got, because as has happened a few times now with these live streams, I don't know how this song's going to go. I don't know how these are going to sound. I've got 45 tracks to drop in. Let's see. Drop them in on separate tracks and let them go. Oh, and they're all at 44.1k and I'm running at 48. Well, that's going to have to do for now. One of the best things for me about Reaper is that it can resample on the fly, meaning that it's not a problem. It is set to 128 samples of latency, so I'm going to change that quickly. My voice may go off for a second. There we go, and we're back. I did say, morning from Australia. Good God. Hello, Chris. That's insane that you're watching on such a crazy time difference, but welcome, welcome, welcome. Maybe make yourself at home, have some breakfast while you watch the stream. It's going to be a lot of fun today. So, what have we got? First thing is, let this generate all these lovely waveforms for us, and then let's clean out all the stuff that isn't. Oh, it's at 162 BPM. That's really useful. Project settings. Let's change that from beats to time, and change our tempo of the project to 162. Did that time stretch everything? I bet it did. Balls. Maybe the project should have been the other way. Time. Yeah, no, that should have been time, because then when I change it to 162, it doesn't then time stretch everything. Far more useful for us. So I can have everything start at the start of a bar, and it will now, including you lot, thank you very much, it will now begin on time. Now, one of the little tricks that I love to use in Reaper that will save me a lot of time is I've been sent all these stems, and right now it looks like a block. And I mean, how are you supposed to make much of that? So what we're going to do firstly is go to actions, and there's an action that is auto trim split items, remove silence. And we'll say -90 is a threshold, so literally when the file's been sent to me and there's just a big blank section, I press the process button. This is going to take a little while to rip through, but that happens. And suddenly, everything looks a lot easier to deal with. And it's all in a good order as well. Thank you, Paul. So that means... Oh, Al, hello! Make yourselves at home, everybody. I, for a change, am not drinking beer. I'm just drinking orange squash. Because I've had a bit of a change in diet recently. I decided I was putting on a bit of a stomach tub. So I've decided to switch to basically meat and vegetables and black coffee and not beer for a little while. Basically Glenvricker's keto diet. So we've got, let's have a look. These are going to be quite loud. So let's listen to this with no mixing at all, just to get a feel for how the song is before we even try and head in a direction. Huh. The song goes bump.
The faster I run, the harder I fall on my knees. You pick me apart, leave a hole in my heart, so it seems. Days come and go, I've got nowhere to go when you leave. But I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Right, I think I'm starting to get a feel for this song. Hello everybody, hello, welcome. Yeah, dynamic split also works, but it does something quite different. Dynamic split is specifically designed to make lots and lots of little chunks. It's quite often it's analogous to Pro Tools' Beat Detective. Well, this is completely unmixed right now. The snare's really quite poppy, but I don't mind. I mean, it's just quite high tuning. There are guitars that say they are reggae, so let's go to this section.
Let me live, let me live, let me breathe.
Ooh.
And I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my...
Yeah. Yeah, so the reason that the snare sounds the way it does is like that ambient mic is loud. That's something that's going to change. I mean, if I knock all the ambient mics off.
Live, let me live. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it up.
Yeah, that was really popping. So I'm just going to save this because saving regularly is good. So Banana Ranch 2020 album, breathe. There we go. And I don't have to worry about saving like mix 1, mix 2, mix 3 because every time I hit save I get an incremental time stamped back up. So I don't have to worry about that because I get files that are perfectly time-stamped every time. And that's set very much on purpose. So we've got, underneath this desk here, I'm going to turn a couple of things on. I've got a slightly different setup today because all the lovely equipment that I've been building over the years has finally kind of come to fruition. So I have a very small little reamping section today. So I'm just going to grab, make sure that doesn't catch on there, and see if I can show you down here, because today it's a much smaller reamp section than it has been, but it's still a little convoluted. It goes from, let's see, where's my phone? Get a torch, there we go. So I'm going from that reamp box from Radial, which is soon to be replaced with something far better. Then I've got the Mosky Silver Horse, which is actually really good. Then I'm going to this Mesa V-Twin preamp, which is basically the front end of a dual rectifier, into this Mesa Boogie 5050, which is from about 1989, but it's a really nice 50 watt per side 6L6 power amp. So it's basically the other side of a dual rectifier. That's going into the Captor, the classic Captor, because unfortunately I have to send the Captor X on to the next person, and then we're going up to the 2 Notes Cab M, which is now on Beta 8. The official new firmware should be coming out within a matter of days. So Beta 8 is essentially the final release of the testing version of the new firmware for the Cab M. So that pretty much makes those two little units at the end, when you put them together, a Captor X essentially, but just separate bits that I have to put together, and it's not nearly as elegant a solution. But yeah, let's try. I think I'm one cable short right now. Yeah, there we go. So I need to plug in the Golden Horse. Look at my horse is amazing. Give it a lick. Ooh, it tastes just like raisins. In fact, you know what? I don't think we need the Silver Horse with the Mesa preamp. It's got plenty of gain. I might use the Silver Horse or a Tube Screamer. This is like a British version of a Tube Screamer. In front of the JCM 800 Studio, which is also down there, which was in between them all. But for now, I've got the V-Twin warming up, and I've got the 5050 warming up as well. So, let's bring up the Torpedo remote as well, and we'll have a look at getting a sound for these rhythm guitars. And then once we've got some of the more basic guitars in, tip jar, always appreciated, my man. So this is a preset that I made for the Cab M, which I've sent to the guys at 2 Notes, which hopefully will end up as part of their set of presets that they're going to be putting in to the release of the Captor X and the new Cab M stuff, because that'd be really cool to have my name and my cab by default as one of the presets on there. That's pretty cool. Come on, brain. Right, there we go. Brain engaged. Let's go. So, if I've done this right, and there's a moderate chance that I've done this right, let's just solo this guitar. Yeah, so let's solo this and then send this hardware out of line 3. Oh yeah, that's working. I know that's the right channel. I was plugging the TRS cable to the reamper back into the back of this Arturia Audio Fuse interface earlier, and it's kind of wedged in there under the desk. So I was just kind of guessing and using my hands to count 1, 2, 3, and I know it's right because as soon as I hit play on this, the fan in the captor is going. So I'm alt-clicking on this little button down here, which is the routing button, and that means that we're now not going to hear the DI. Meters are still going though, and the fan in the captor suddenly sounds like a hairdryer. And I can actually see the meters on here going. See these green lights? That means we're getting sound. So that's super obvious, and I can see the level going on input 5. There we go. So I've plugged in rhythm left. I've plugged in the out from the cab M to, there we go, output 5. So that's probably far too buzzy. That's on the main rectifier channel, so we're gonna change that. Firstly to the blues channel and turn the gain and the bass down and see what we get from there. There we go. I do like that kind of tone out of Mesa stuff. It's slightly buzzy, slightly fuzzy. It's like using a fuzz pedal. That's apparently the Mesa blues sound. Yeah, right, blues. On the V-Twin, which is basically a dual rectifier, it's like, yeah, okay, that's about as clean as you're going to get. Or that's the clean channel. So I'm kind of liking that. It's a little unusual. Let's play a bit more. And it's gated as well, so there's absolutely no background noise, which is great, because that means, yeah, there's a little bit of a mid-scoop as well. There we go. We don't need tons of low end. So what I'm going to try is I'm going to run this through and we'll see. I'll just pan that to the left. It'll be slightly out of time because of the delay of the round trip of it getting out of Reaper or any DAW through the interface, through the reamping and all that kind of stuff. And we're adding quite a bit of latency, as we can see up here. But once it's done, it will automatically be shifted into the right place. Oh. That's what happens when you've got a trackpad on the laptop and lean on it with the palm of your hand because you're an idiot. So let's run this through.
The faster I run, the harder I fall on my knees. You pick me apart, leave a hole in my heart, so it seems.
Needs more volume.
Days come and go, I've got nowhere to go when you leave. But I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. When I'm left alone, I just play on my phone to appease the thoughts in my head that dead with unease. I know what to do when I show you, you'll believe. 'Cause I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Said I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live.
Yes, I did indeed get my headphones back. I went to the studio yesterday, and that was the first thing I did was headphones grab. So, yes. There we go. These aren't quite named very intuitively, and that's a good point. As soon as I've finished reamping this track and the right-hand side, I'll quickly go through and colour everything, group everything, make it a bit easier to look at.
Hiding under my I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
There you go. Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about timing issues just yet. We'll get the tones worked out, and then if anything really needs shifting round, we will. But it's entirely possible. That can just get muted now. It's entirely possible that the reamping, especially with that delay, is throwing us off. So we'll listen to it with the delay compensation in place and then see. Because that guitar that was being reamped on the left-hand side was significantly late because of the round trip. So against that, it's entirely possible that the measurements weren't right. But we'll see. That's better. That's very different.
The faster I run, the harder I fall on my knees. You pick me apart, leave a hole in my heart, so it seems. Days come and go, I've got nowhere to go when you leave. But I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. With unease, I know what to do when I show you, you'll believe. 'Cause I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Said I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Okay, so I think I see what you mean about this chorus riff. I think the whole thing's just ended up a little too early somehow. What we're going to do at this point, hit save. Whatever, that's a Dropbox thing. Make this a Dramu group. Drum group. What is wrong with me? Drum girl. There we go. So let's put all them in there and give that a particular colour. Oh, wow. That's blue. That's so blue that's actually painful on the eyes. Let's give all these a colour as well. Pink. And let's give the main vocals one colour and the backing vocals a different one. There we go. Hurt Eye Blue, yes. I'm sure the people at the paint company call it that. Maybe they do. Maybe I did need the beer, yeah, maybe. It's just bright, you know. Yeah, okay, so that DI can go as well. Let's call this Guitar Bus. It looks like this particular song is very guitar heavy, which is cool. And the instrumentation in that case can be relatively simple. There we go. The start of Glenn's tracks is F in this, F in that, yeah.
Just let me.
Right, so
I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under.
yeah, those are just a little bit early.
Live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe.
And I'll bet that the others are as well. Let's just look. There we go, yeah. Just bring them in so the first hit.
I've got a plan and I'm hiding.
Right, so those, let's get these reamped as well. These are going to need more gain, which is very much my thing. So let's make this kind of lead left. There we go. Always a bit weird when that happens. And ba-ba. There's some nice bonk in there. Bit less 6K on that. There we go, a whole different type of reverb. It's the more ambient one that's on there now. And when this is in stereo, it should sound quite nice. Yeah, so let's get that reamped.
Let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Okay. This one's going to take a little bit of time to come together, I think. Just because there are so many tracks to reamp, this is going to take a little while.
Let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live.
One more before we switch over.
Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding.
Okay. This should make more sense now when we pan the other one over the other way and make sure only this one is coming out.
Let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe.
Yeah, there we go. Hello, hello, hello. So yeah, there we go. That makes more sense.
Let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Definitely be editing those bonks off the end because it goes ba-da ba-da bonk.
Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Yeah, snare might make more sense because I turned that ambient mic down by 5 dB. Yeah, this song is going to be quite a lot of work. I don't think it's going to be a particularly difficult mix, but there's just going to be a lot of elements to run through, and then I'm going to have to learn the bass part, play the bass part, mix all these vocals, which again isn't that bad because even though it looks like a lot of them, they are looking like largely groups. Let's just zoom in on the wave files. Yeah, so it's all group stuff there, and once the guitars are all kind of in place, we'll get a drum sound. In fact, I'm going to borrow the drum sound from the previous song, see how far that gets us, because consistency across an album, it's not just laziness, ladies and gentlemen. There is method to that. If the same drum kit's used and the same mix sound is overall used, even if you do some subtle changes per song to make it fit, you have a common theme. And common themes are part of when people ask me, how do you mix an album to make it sound like every song belongs together? Start by using the same instruments. You know, change elements at the right times, but don't just change everything on a whim unless you're just completely throwing caution to the wind, because if you do that, you need at least one common thread to be identical right the way through to be, identifiable. Otherwise, if you're asking how to make things fit in a mix, you're asking the wrong question, because you obviously don't need that. Anyway, I'm getting way off track. Let's see what happens if I do that and completely mess myself up for a second. If I run the vocalist. No, I don't even touch bass until nearer the end. And I'm a bass player. No. And the kick drum, if you didn't have a good kick drum sound to begin with, send the mix back. No.
Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe.
Right, this needs me to turn that gain off. That sounds cool. Oh, that's still coming through the clean sound. Oh, no, maybe not that. Right, let's listen to this again. I've really turned the gain down on this amp and turned the output up to match. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Now, I am getting a little bit of... No, I still don't start with the bass pretty much ever, because the bass can be fit around the guitars generally. Guitars have so much mid information, which is what the ear is most sensitive to, that is where timing is most important. That and snare drum for me. Anything that's mid frequency is far more important. Bass stuff can develop over quite a long amount of time. And so in that case, if it's slightly off, it can be construed as feel, where mid information, stuff like the mid section of the overheads and snare and rhythm guitars especially, that's where I tend to start. And I tend to start from overheads on drums and work my way back, then rhythm guitars, then add in the sound of the bass. I mean, everyone's going to do it differently. If you've got a method that works for you, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but there are just reasons why I do what I do. It's different from genre to genre as well. There are certain genres where I'll definitely focus on the bass first, like if I'm working on some sort of like dub track or something like that, which is rare, but if the kick drum sucks, you can, if you absolutely have to, use it as a trigger and roll all the low end out of the overheads so that there's no kick in the overheads, trigger it so that there's a decent kick sound, and then align it as you need to. I've had to do that on metal tracks before where the drum is supposed to have this and it comes out like some sort of wet fish that's trying to fight for its life. And yeah, sometimes you do have to just do that. But at that point, it's usually the kind of music where feel wasn't the important thing anyway. But yeah, that... Right, I'm not getting a sound that I like here. That's okay. I'm going to come back to it. What's this one? I'm going to try this reggae clean. I do not line up overheads with the snare mic. I have found through doing it as A/B tests and research that that's actually a false idea. It sounds like it should make sense by lining snares and overheads together, then surely they all hit at the same time, that's better. But that isn't how physics works, so it's not how your ear responds the best. Your ear tends to respond better when microphones are a proper distance away, because that slight delay does actually make your ears believe there's a certain size to a 3D image. And it's pretty much been proven by a couple of producers that I've worked with that you can spend hours trying to perfectly align things, and then you're wondering why everything sounds kind of flat. Even though that snare is then time aligned perfectly, the physics of the rest of the drum kit is then messed with, and the kind of natural perception that your brain was doing before is ruined. Or if you're working on country stuff, then acoustic guitar is far more important than anything, and then vocal. And so that's what I would do, is make sure your acoustic guitar and vocal are absolutely perfect, then add other instruments around that, because if they're not perfect, it's less important. I generally do not touch phase offsets. They are bad. They don't do what you think they do, and if they do, you had problems in your sources to begin with. So that's what I've come to, not just as some random opinion, but this has actually been A/B tested in some very expensive studios that I've been in by guys who've got Grammys. They know what they're doing. I mean, it's not even about being old school, it's about what feels best in terms of perception. And the modern thinking is supposed to be that if everything's tightened up in terms of timing, therefore it must be better. But if you listen to any records from like the early 2000s, late 2000s, and wonder why they all sound a little bit flat, it turns out that's one of the many reasons why. Is that we were trying too hard to make everything perfect, when as it stood, if you had mics that were at set distances and that small time delay was allowed to be, that time difference translates to your ears perceiving size. And that helps things sound bigger. Oh, leaving it be, yes. I mean, I can see why you would do things like that, and a good example of when you would change that is, let's say you've got more than one microphone on a guitar cabinet, but to get the right sound out of each one, they have to be slightly at the wrong phase alignment, quote unquote. By then aligning those, that makes sense, because otherwise you'll get some horrible comb filtering. But when I do that, if I have, say, ribbons at the back of the room to give the guitar cabs some size, I don't time align those. Because those are meant to have a small gap before they start playing, so that the initial transient comes through before the room washes around that signal, which then gives you clarity, and your ears do that psychoacoustic thing, give you space. Yeah, psychoacoustics matter a lot more than we really think. What was the first DAW that I tried? Cakewalk Sonar 4. I had Sonar 4 back in 1999, I think it was. It was awful. But it did a job. And yeah, I remember having a Zoom drum machine. Yeah, I'm going to send this to the right place. Yeah, I had a Zoom drum machine and a guitar, and was using the inbuilt distortion simulators, and it was absolutely terrible. Do I struggle to get volume out of my 650s? No. It does depend on interface. If you've got a lower end, cheaper interface, they're probably not designed to drive high impedance headphones. There we go. There we go. That's got some character to it, and I like character on my guitars. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so let's record this in.
Let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my...
Does SonarWorks do anything other than EQ? I don't believe it does. No, it's not a magic fix. It is just a corrective EQ. I'm using it right now, and it looks a lot like this. But it's a very specific EQ, and I've been using it in mixed phase mode. I suppose for mixing, I could use it in linear phase mode, because that adds a load of latency, but makes it a much more perfect thing. Yeah, Audience are really, really good. Every Audience interface that I've had has had really good headphone outputs. I'm using an Arturia Audio Fuse right now, and my headphone volume is less than 12 o'clock. There's loads of room for me to go higher up if I so choose. So this is reggae clean left. Oh, you've been listening to different genres in comparison. Yes. That is the perfect example of why when people ask me all the time, how do I EQ this? How do I EQ that? My answer is always the same, and it is, I have no idea. Not because I don't know what I'm doing, but because I haven't heard your source. I haven't heard your target of what kind of sound you want. I haven't heard the rest of the elements of your mix. Without those key ingredients, no idea. Oh right, so the phase settings in SonarWorks. By default, it's on 0 latency, which is what's called minimum phase. Minimum phase mode is less accurate. If you look at this slight wobble here, it's less accurate on the lower, from like 300 hertz downwards. It's not particularly bad, but minimum phase is a method you can use which doesn't add any extra latency to whatever you're doing. Linear phase for a long time was the other option, which means that the phase response of the EQ is perfect at the expense of, firstly, something called pre-ringing, which means there's a little bit of sound that comes out before transients, and the fact that it adds loads and loads of latency, which means you cannot track with it. You can't record instruments with it because the extra latency will screw you up. And recently they've added a mixed phase mode, which is much better than the 0 latency mode, which has issues all over the show, but is still much better than just not having SonarWorks. The mixed phase one is much closer, but does add some latency. So it depends what you can live with. If I'm mixing, I leave it on linear phase. If I'm tracking, I put it back on 0 latency. I need a much more critical ear when I'm mixing, so linear phase is the important one there. Although even mixed phase is fine most of the time, honestly.
Let me live, let me live.
So let's just check this out. There we go. Yeah, no problem.
Let me live, let me live, let me breathe.
Now, interestingly, because I've put that on linear phase,
just let me live.
that's now a massive delay in between the channels.
I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my.
All the questions coming in. So it was a signal that was filtered. Well, that's the entire output of the master is going through my headphones with this frequency response. And sometimes I use the bass boost, sometimes I don't. It depends how I'm feeling on the day. That's a personal preference thing. I use the tilt a lot because I like more high end in my headphones. I just do. I always have done. Otherwise, I've always found as a bad habit, I add too much high end to everything. Personal preferences, I like a bit of a loudness curve. So I found that by setting this tilt quite high, so it gives me up to 5 dB of extra top end, I then am not naturally going to add more top end than I need because I can already hear that. And yeah, the correction on HD 650s, they are one of the pairs of headphones that have the least amount of correction compared to anything else, which is why a lot of mix engineers like them. They're not perfect, but compared to most things, they are really, really good. Someone was trying to kind of sell me Oleos. Oh. Why do I have to open system-wide? This is irritating. Hopefully this doesn't break anything. But there were someone was trying to sell me some Oleo S4s. There we go. And they were all over the show. So if how do I add a preset? Oleos. Watch the difference. That's Oleos. That's HD 650s, in which HD 650s don't really have subs. But the Oleos, look at that, they're all over the place. And so I saw that and I went, you know what? I'm alright. Cheers. I'm good where I am. So, yeah, no, thanks. So let's make sure it goes back to 650. And yeah, you can even set some, or used to be able to set some really advanced stuff. What was that? Complaining about SonarWorks reference should be off. Yeah, I want it to be off. I don't run the Sonarworks system wide. I don't like it. M50s. Don't know them. But yeah, I mean, I for a long time worked on. Oh God, I can't even remember. HD25s, I think they were, not the cheap SP ones, the proper HD25 Sennheisers. And then when I got some money, I got a pair of 650s. And ahoy hoy! Talking of 650s, there's my other pair of HD 650s with Christian in the chat. Hey. Right. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in Sonarworks. And yes, it does work with studio monitors as well. But it doesn't do studio monitors. It does studio monitors and the room, because the two are completely inseparable. And you need to buy the Sonarworks that comes with a measurement mic, which actually has a serial number printed on the microphone that they've measured that microphone, so that when you match that up with the software, it accounts for any slight variations in the measurement mic. And then you do something like 40 different measurements around the room, and then it's calibrated. I use that in the studio, and it's amazing. The Adam A7Xs that I use are great monitors, but I don't know whether it's because of crossover frequency point or something like that, but in the vocal range around 1K, there's a noticeable dip, and vocals always sound a little bit far back on those speakers. And by using Sonarworks and doing a full calibration, suddenly things like, the vocals come back to where they should be at the front of the mix, and our control room, as well treated as it is and properly soundproofed and floating floors, floating walls, floating ceilings, all that kind of stuff, it has a big curve in one side of the wall, and I'm talking like a 20-foot curve, because the shape of the building, if you've ever seen a picture of the hot pole, it's got this big round kind of corner on it because it's a corner building, and so that's part of the studio, and that affects one side of the bass response no matter what we do. And Sonarworks picked up on that and corrected that side. So if I sit in the control room position now, everything's pretty much dead center. What it doesn't do is correct for things like reverb times and reflections, but yeah, that is something that you have to deal with your control room. And mine's fairly well controlled at this point, but there was still a few deficiencies that wouldn't really have been fixable without a lot of money. And Sonarworks sorted the rest of that out for me. Thoughts on Abbey Road Studio 3? The idea is the same. In practice, it seems to not quite be that way. Plus, those target curves, I don't know what you mean. Thoughts on, it's similar to a part of Sonarworks, but then it tries to put you in the space in Studio 3 in Abbey Road. I don't want that. I want flat reference, boring, vanilla, null. And I don't like system-wide because my use case is a little bit weird. I do things like this, like live streaming. I do a lot of clever routing. I do a lot of clever changing things around and using things like voice meter to send things out of Discord and Skype and podcasts. And because system-wide appears as an extra sound source, it quite often interferes, and it can really screw up things like routing, and it can make for an all-round bad time. So it's not what it does to the sound that I don't like. It's the other stuff. It's the sorting out of the things. To be quite broad. And so the only time I really need Sonarworks is when I'm mixing anyway. So any other time I just leave it well alone. And that's it. That's why. It's not that I don't like what it does. It's the other stuff. Hello, everybody. I'm not the God of Reaper. I am merely his messenger. Mwahaha. Oh, yeah, predefined target curves. There used to be more in here, but you can make it sound like some classic speakers. There's a B&K speaker target, and then there's also the X curve, which, if you've ever been to the cinema and you're crazy about sound and you notice everything about details, have you ever noticed that all the top end is really soft in the cinema? I wondered about this for years. I always thought it was quite low quality, and it turns out it's a thing called the X curve. Everything in the subs is rolled off below a certain point, and everything in the high end is really quite softened off. Listen to this now. Oh no, you won't be able to hear this because this is on the monitor and output. So this is actually after restream, which is what is sending you guys the sound. Yes, Banana Ranch again. Yeah, hello Rachel. But yeah, the X curve makes everything sound a lot softer, which is to give you an idea if you were mixing for film, what your stuff would sound like in the cinema, which is really good that it can correct your headphones or your speakers and then further in the same plugin do the rest of the correction and make it sound like you were actually in a theatre. I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, I do it the other way. I quite often have a dB of bass boost on there, or maybe even 2. Depends how I'm feeling on the day, but I generally leave, like I was saying, the tilt quite high. And yeah, you can add speaker profiles in here if you've already done that. Dolby Atom? You mean Atmos? Well, anything Dolby is cinema related. DTS cinema related. Anything that is released in cinemas, full stop, since about the mid-80s, has this thing called the X curve. And I believe even before that it had something like that, not because it was really on purpose, but because the way the audio was stored on film was just kind of terrible. I mean, at one point, audio was stored on film optically, and not optical as in CD or ADAT or whatever. There was actually the waveform printed on the film, and something kind of read that back and translated that into audio. The fidelity was crap. God only knows why. Oh, cost. Cost is probably why. Because you can copy that easily when it's just a light source. Anyway, we've got way off topic now. So let's have a listen to how this sounds. Ooh. Yeah, so that's got a little bit of a crunch to it. I like it. Let's have a listen to these two. And then they all need to go through a cleaner amp, I think. What's this chorus scratch? So that's a very definite ding-a-ding-a-ding.
Let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm high.
Right, so this one's going to be relatively high gain. Okay, that's good for the setup we have right now, which is going back to the Mesa. Scratch. Oh, apparently there's a few different scratchy ones. I'm going to bring those other scratchy ones up here. And that sounds a bit like something by In Excess right now. So we're going to... Ooh, I hate it when that happens. But We're gonna change it so that this comes through. Ah, rock and roll. That sounds pretty epic to me. Cool. There we go. I've given this one a 2K push because I want that to poke through the mix. Even when I come back to the actual mix blending of this one, I'm probably going to end up doing a little bit more of that. But if I've already got some on the source, it's less work to do, and less work is always good. So there we go. I've just turned the input gain up on the interface just to make this sit on top of the mix. Yeah, that's definitely going to end up with some sort of delay on it, I think, to make it just sound bigger. Okay, cool. So that was scratch 1. Take record off on that. How's this sound? Quick, the Italians are here. Let's duplicate this track. I'm sure there must be like an SWS shortcut for duplicating a track, removing the elements, turning record off. I'll bet there's something that I'm just not aware of that can go. The DIs for the reggae clean. If I keep making sure I've muted everything that I've already reamped, muting the DIs, should I say that when it comes to the end of the reamping phase, I can just hide the rest of those and just move them probably down to the bottom of the project so that it doesn't look like I've got a terrifying number of tracks. So I've already got 45 tracks plus the reamp, so I've got 56 so far. So let's look at these. Let's take that out of the master and record. See how this sounds. More reverb. Yeah, that's it. Sounds nice. There's a couple of clunks. Like, if I just clean the start up. Oh, updating the firmware on a NAS. Good luck with that, Marty. Gee whiz. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I love updating the firmware on stuff because I'm a born nerd, but I hate NASes. I used to have a Drobo, and whoa boy.
Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under the sea. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under the sea. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it.
Yeah, Yeah, this is going to sound pretty cool. So let's just duplicate this. And duplicate is kind of a special word for duplicate. So let's make sure that one's muted and. Ooh. It's very Muse at this point.
I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Cool. Right, so that's that done. Guitar dissonant end. That sounds brutal. The dissonant end. Ooh. That sounds nice. That's gonna work with the Marshall. What's this? That's also a Marshall bit. So, next step now for me is turn off the Miss a Boogie. Oh, whenever I do stuff like that, my screen has a little hissy fit and turns off for a split second. So, there we go. Just gently and slowly show my age for a second while I get the equipment to plug something in and struggle with it while I get my cane. Oh, hernia! So, bear with me a second whilst I plug in this wonderful EL34 beast. Right, okay. The Dissonant End actually exists on Bandcamp. Why am I not surprised? I mean, if it sounds like a metal band, chances are it is a metal band. So, right, at this point, the Marshall is warming up. Get off my lawn! Yeah, but I'm English. Most of us don't have lawns. Right, so let's have a look at the Dissonant End. All in capitals. The dissonant left. There we go. Okay, so this one. Yeah, the Marshall's much nicer for this. Although that's on the low sensitivity input with the gain maxed. Let's change it to the high sensitivity with the gain down. And see what happens if we turn it up just a little. Yeah, I much prefer that. Let's just make sure the EQ tweaks are right. Sounds kind of nice to me. So, let's get this recorded in. Not with a new track. It's getting kind of hard to hear anything at this point. Let's duplicate this track. This will make it stand out by unmute that, mute that, unrecord that, record that. It's a bit like knitting with audio sometimes. Limit of what?
Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under the sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding.
If you can ask questions in the chat, I would kindly ask that you put more than a word or two, because I'm not a psychic. I need to know what you're thinking. Am I still running Catalyst? Catalyst? Don't know what you mean. Let's listen to these. Ah. Now I see why they're called Dissonant. So, I've got a couple of guitars up here, the reggae ones, which I didn't reamp. I decided they would work better with the Marshall. Probably on low sensitivity to give it that cleaner thing. The Mesa's clean channel is fuzzy, the blues channel is really fuzzy, and the gain channel is just nothing but fuzz. Which is great for those channels that you want that, but the Marshall, he don't do that. So, the reggae effects, that's the one I wanted. That is the one I wanted. Ooh, 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 honey.
Live, let me live, let me live.
Right. Right, I'm liking the sound of this. Yeah, there we go.
Live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my.
Yeah, that's gonna work really nicely. Reggae effects left, and then just move that down to reggae effects right. Make sure that that's panned the other way, and that's off, and that's on. Delete that out, and go.
Live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my...
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like it. So the volumes are all over the show right now. But you kind of have to learn to listen past that a little bit.
Breathe.
Especially if you want to work at speed. Yeah. Because, I mean, that's a really cool effect. It starts off quite muddy, but I can hear that he's opening an envelope filter. I mean, you can really hear him open it up, especially on the left here. Yeah, I really like that. It's a very distinct effect. And then, so, got what I think is 4 more guitars to go, and that's the reamping of that section done. That's nearly an hour and a half of the stream. Whoa. Whoa, hello. That's messing with my brain. Let's get this sorted out ASAP. So we don't need that one, or that one coming out of the master.
Let me live, let me live, let
Let's play that back. There we go. Because everything's modular down here. Because I've got a separate captor and cab M, I was able to turn that up on the captor so that I've got more level hit in the cab M without actually adding any more distortion. Yes, if I'm not drinking healthy beer, I'm drinking no added sugar orange and mango squash. Although, having said that, I am going to take a quick break at one point, and I may return with a little bit of my birthday present from Mickey, which was 2 Swallows cherry rum and lemonade. Or maybe just the rum over ice. I've not decided yet. That could be quite nice. Just neat rum over quite a lot of ice. Let it just chill and sit for a while. That could be nice. Oh, believe me, there's a lot less sugar in neat rum than there is in beer. I love a good beer, but I'm going to be cutting down on the amount of beer that I drink just to try and keep the pot belly away, because I've certainly noticed recently that that's been a thing. That's a nice clean part. That's what a Marshall sounds like if you don't absolutely crank the gain. That's on the low sensitivity because it's a single channel amp, of course. But let's just run this through as well. And see how this sounds. Give that a bit more hair. There we go. And now it's a bit louder, it's a bit bassier, so let's take some bass away. There we go. This is just an extra couple of chords for flavour by the sound of it. Typical Ricky. last one. Right, so that needs to go there. That needs to go there. So all these DIs are now muted. There we go. So I now have every element here. Just check that they're all done. So it should look like an absolute zebra. Just make sure the dissonant and... Oh, we never did the verse octave. This is why it's always good to check. Right, so that's our guitars, ladies and gentlemen. A wall of guitars. Typical Ricky. Right, that's why I wanted to do this with a Marshall. Because I wanted some gain on this, but I didn't want to absolutely batter it with gain. This, if I move it to where you can see it, I can not send that out the master. I can send that out line 3. Have this pick up. And then let's just drive that a bit on the high input. Bit less treble. I think that's his Telecaster by the sound of it, so no matter how much I turn down the treble and the presence, there's still some brightness in there. Octave. Octave left. Oh, a ding. And yeah, the reason I'm not checking every single one of these in the mix is... Oh, crap. Undo. That's kind of cool that you can do that, but not what I wanted. Move tracks to new project. Yeah, no. I mean, that's pretty clever. Like, let's say you've got a 1,000-track project and it's getting way too much. You could say, you know what? No, I don't want this, and you could send 200 or 300 of those tracks to a new project and render that out. It's pretty clever. So we're going to make sure that these are panade left and right, and then we're going to send this through. Lots of plinky plonky grunky gronky in there. That's the technical term, of course. And that is all the guitar tracks. Okay. So I'm just going to grab all of these DI tracks that we have and I'm going to mute that one and move them all just to the end of the project there. Because they're muted, they're not going to play back, they're not going to use any CPU resources, they are literally just left in the corner to die. But if we ever decide, hey, you know what, let's change the tone of this guitar, or let's go back and put this through a different amp, or whatever crazy madness we decide to do later, we've kept them there for posterity. And it's actually saved me a few times when I've gone back to projects years later and gone, you know what? And then just changed a couple of things and gone, oh, thank goodness, all the original DIs are here. How about that? So, yeah, got groups of vocals, got 2 main vocals there, which is absolutely fine, because the way that I tend to work with Ricky is he'll do a double of a vocal that we'll do a real big stereo thing of. So let's save that, and I'm going to make a new project tab, and I'm going to open Happiness, that's the one. Happiness is the one where we had the superior drum stems from Paul. Because he does have a half decent drum kit and he has all the microphones and he knows what he's doing. But because of his lockdown circumstance, a lot of the time he can't do that. So he's been using Superior Drummer 3 to quite great effect, actually. He's become quite a good drum programmer. So as much as you always say, oh, I'd rather have a real drummer, yes, but failing that for logistical reasons, I'd rather have a drummer or drum producer who was good at making virtual drums. So I'm literally just copy and pasting this drum kit in here, and I'm just gonna see what else we've got. So I've got I'm gonna undo that, and I'm gonna copy all these and that kick drum, and I'm also gonna save myself some time and copy my entire effects bus, because again that saves me a lot of time, because I know full well what I'm like. If I'm in a studio that has hardware, I am the kind of person that would ideally have a small rack of things like reverbs and delays set to settings that I tend to use a lot. Like I would tend to have a short early reflective room. I tend to have quite a nice plate reverb, ideally a Lexicon 480 on the A plate. Also a Bricasti M7 on Studio B close. What else? What was the third one? Just like an EMT 140, of course, in the real world. Nobody's got one of those because they're so expensive, but I tend to have something with that kind of sound. And I tend to have some sort of delay unit that's got a nice sort of soft top end. So I may as well have them all set so that I can have the effects group ready to go. I mean, I'm always open to changing things on a per song basis, but if I have all these ready as a start point, then by having that start point here, it saved me 10 minutes, 20 minutes of me setting things up. There's my Bricasti M7, there's my EMT 140 style plate, there's my snare plate, which is actually the Chris Lord Algae Sony Dre 2000, nothing to do with the rapper, and there's Echo Boy with my nice delay, which I can change to 162 for this song. And that will be my starting point there. Now, I can delete the actual drums out of here because that would be awful. And just make sure that these are in the same order. Ambient ribbon, ambient center, ambient front high. Right. Rack tom, floor tom, rack tom, floor tom. So I should have 9 tracks. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Am I confusing myself? I think I am. Make sure snap is on so that I don't bring these out of time with the rest of the stuff. There we go. Actually, what? Oh, right. So I can copy these across as well to my master bus, which is True Iron, which I use on everything because these transformers, it just has a thing. I mean, Sylvia Massey, she's a Grammy-winning genius, nutcase. She's brilliant. She has these big actual iron transformers on her master bus when she's mixing. And this basically does that. And I'm going to turn off Slate FGX. We don't want that for now. That's literally for when we're done pushing some extra volume onto that mix so that when Ricky and Paul play that back over speakers, the level sounds roughly right so that they can get a better judgment of the mix. And when we come to the mastering phase, I'll take that back off and per song, and then we'll put them all in a separate project and come to that. as it comes. So, just random kick drum there. There we go.
But I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live.
I'm aware now that all my guitars are a funny colour. So let's give these... Oh, it chose pink again. Huh, how about that? And so let's add a bass track there for when we get round to that. I'm going to try something a bit different with the bass today. I'm going to drag out a bass in a minute. In fact, this is about halfway through the stream. It's a good time to take a 2-minute break. I'm going to grab myself a glass of rum and I'm going to grab myself a bass. And we're going to play this bass in, and then we're going to look at slowly pulling a mix together, and we'll probably get 80% of the way through this mix before it's time for this stream to end. At which point we'll then pick this up later in the week and do some final polishing and then send it off to the client. Got so much more stuff on as well that even if we finish that and they've not had time to send us the next song, that looks like it's clipping but it's actually the Zoom, then there's so much more to do. So yeah, don't you guys worry about that. There's plenty to be showing you on stream. Plenty, plenty, plenty. One sheet is plenty. Oh, uh-oh. There we go. So yeah, everybody grab yourselves a drink and do what you gotta do. And I'll see you back here in a couple of minutes. Yo, 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 what up? I am back and I have my bass. I also have this. The Two Swallows Cherry Rum from Rockstar. So I'm going to open this. Put the bass down for a second. And pour myself a nice rum over ice. And that smells absolutely wonderful. Cheers. Oh, it's like the most beautiful fire. Now, bass, this is going to be, this is going to be oop. I can now turn off the amp. And I'm going to try something I've not tried before. Oh, and that's throw the captor around. No, what's the other end? I'm going to plug the bass straight in to the captor. Make sure all my settings are not absolutely goofed, because they are. I need to change that SonarWorks back to 0 latency, because that is messing me up. And then quick way to change the latency is make the effect offline, then bring it online again, and the latency will reset. So right now that doesn't sound great, but that's fine. So what I want to do is change everything. So I made a preset earlier called the deepest of bass, which I'm probably going to change, but that is using the new preamp. And yes, there's a preamp. I'm going to turn off this low kick. And I'm going to change the power amps to 6L6. This is using my 18-inch bass cab, by the way, which I'm going to change out for the 4x12 bass beast. Now, my bass is kicking out pretty loud, so I'm going to have to change the setting on the side of the cab M to be plus 12. And change the output level. Oh, that's coming out quite loud. Anyway, it seems I'm just going to have to turn up my headphones. Let's also turn up my treble and low end on my bass a bit. More thickness, more brilliance, and a bit of body. Let's see what this does. Let's add a bit of gain. Needs tuning. Needs a bit less low end coming in from the bass. And a bit of, is it depth or contour? that is, ladies and gentlemen, that is my bass with an active preamp, not doing a great deal, going straight into the cab M. And that's it. Let's just change the EQ over to bass mode. Add a bit more 4K and a bit less 800. Bit more 120 for that low end oomph. Suppose at this point I should probably learn the song. Same all the way through to here. Oh, you all want to stare at my crotch. Right, okay. So, right now I'm just kind of learning the song anyway. But it's yeah, I mean that it is a really good sound. That is the first time I've used the Cab M for bass in anger. And there we go. So you can see a bit more of in fact, if I hold down the Alt key and press some magical buttons, you should be able to see a bit more. There we go. So you can actually see me go. Oh, what have I done? It's just classic jazz bass sound through essentially an SVT preamp. If I tickle it quite lightly, I can do that classic jazz bass thing all day long. Oh, that's just on the neck pickup. That should be. I do need to deoxit my controls because it's starting to stick between the pickup blend and the volume, so it should be. There we go. That's both pickups together. And then if I attack that a bit harder, I get that saturation. It's one reason I've always loved having a relatively high gain bass sound, not necessarily distorted, but higher gain than you would think on bass, means there's quite a lot of saturation, and saturation is a natural, quote unquote, form of compression. I'm just going to take a little rum. And that means I can do things like that. So within the same dynamic range, I can go like this. Or I can go. And it really means that I can have a big tonal palette. Why is the tuning at 442? That's stupid. And this bass is active. This is using a John East preamp. But let's have a look at the controls. The mid is dead center. The bass is almost completely rolled off, which on this bass means it's flat. It does have a bit of a high-end lift, and it's got the switch pulled out for the bright mode. There we go. Let's make sure this is properly in tune. Oh yeah, by the way, the Cab M now has a tuner. It didn't have a tuner before. So that means I'm now perfectly in tune. This bass does have a switch. That's now in passive mode, and that sounds horrible to me. And then back to active. Just make sure. Yeah, this isn't quite clipping. It's coming in quite hot. And I can see the red there. If I do that, that's quite close to clipping, but it's not clipping. I might just... Yeah, the input's as low as it'll go. Alright, yeah. So if I... Right, so when the tuner's on, you just get a clean signal. That's how that sounds, and if I put the tuner on, that cancels everything. That's how the bass sounds naturally. Yeah, so deoxit on switches and knobs especially. If you've ever had knobs on anything, amps, guitars, electronics, that aren't working right, and generally a telltale sign is that noise. Deoxit it will get rid of oxidizing, basically rust, inside that switch. Yeah, that cleans things right up. And yeah, it means that things don't make the crackle noise. It means that you've got much more chance of all your controls working properly all the way up and down. Quite often if they're stuck as well, it's the oxidization has basically made it to sandpaper and deoxit just kind of clears it out. I've got a contact cleaner at the studio that's made by the people who make WD-40. It is not the same as WD-40. WD-40 is not a deoxidizer and it is not a lubricant. It is only a water displacer. People don't realise that. And that's why they'll WD-40 something and it works perfectly for about 20 minutes. Yeah, no, deoxit is a contact cleaner. You just spray it as close as you can to where you can get in and just and really force it in, and then just turn the controls a lot until it gets in there and cleans itself. So that's how the bass sounds without the Cab M stuff that you see in front of you. Not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but now the top end has been softened off by the cab, but I've used a bit of 4K to bring some of that back in the high mid range, which means if I don't play aggressively, that doesn't stand out. But if I do, it doesn't get louder, it just looks like I do need to bring the output level down by a couple of dB. Yeah, it naturally kind of compresses, and then the body control is doing a bit more compression as well, which means this is a real rock and roll kind of preset. So let's try and go through this song and see how far we get. Helps when you have a click, or at least watch for the cue. Yeah, like I say, I don't use Deoxit brand deoxidizer because you get a really small can for a lot of money. They really play on their brand. But I have a bottle of contact cleaner here somewhere. I've got one at the bar where I work. I've got two at the studio because you can just go through it. I've gone through entire like 500ml cans of that stuff cleaning out mixing desks. And I forgot that this doesn't go 3, 2, 1. It goes... Yeah, sweet. Here we go.
The faster I run, the harder I fall on my knees. You pick me apart, leave a hole in my heart, so it seems. Days come and go, I don't know where to go when you leave. But I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live,
Oh.
let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe.
So is it just the same thing?
I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Yeah.
Let me live, just let me live. Let me live, let me live, let me breathe.
Yeah, okay. So it is the same thing, then it's the so it's A, B, A, B. Cool. So I'll just go from the B section.
Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me
Let's give it a bit more attitude.
just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. When I'm left alone, I just play on my phone to repeat. The thoughts in my head that are restless and dead without me. I know what to do when I show you, you'll believe. 'Cause I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Said I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
There's an extra bit.
I know what to do when I show you, you'll believe. 'Cause I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Said I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm
Lost the kind of the feel there. No one probably would have noticed, but I just wanted that. It's funny you say about the natural bass sound. If you listen closely, that's not natural at all. But it's what we've come to know in modern rock, especially, as kind of a pleasing default. It's that SVT kind of overall low-end drive thing that just sits well in a mix and just pokes out in the right places. Anyway.
let me breathe.
Right.
I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Reggae time.
Just let me live. Let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my. The plan and I'm hiding it under my.
Ooh, there's a cheeky little.
The plan and I'm hiding it under my.
Right, so at the end I just need to do 3 hits.
I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Slightly missed that second one. So what happens when you don't use a click?
I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
That's it. Who needs click tracks anyway? Amateurs. There we go. God, you work with click tracks all day, every day, and work with stuff like Reaper where you can see. Did anybody notice at the start I didn't use a click track? I literally just watched the meter and went, ha! Love doing stuff like that. I'm basically just showing off to myself most of the time, but I don't know. So, yes, I did put some rather nice, tasty stuff in at the end there, just for fun. But what I did there, and what I do a lot of the time, is I left the interesting stuff to near the end of the song. Because then, I mean, it's not my song and it's not about me. But by the end of the song, you know, if you're in, you're in. And so I do like to have a little bit of scope, to have a bit of fun. Oh, God, that colour is not pleasing. Let's change the colour of these takes if I can. Because that, I can't even see that. That's just item and take colours. Set items to one random set takes to a different colour. Set active takes. There we go. That's better because that was just so bright. There we go. So I'm just cleaning up all these parts. And now to listen through, now I'm not playing. Now I've put my bass player head to one side. Now I can listen through and see if I made any sloppy mistakes. See if there's anything that needs redoing, because now's a good time because I've got the bass right there, I've got the setup right there. Right, everything, typical me, everything's a couple of milliseconds early. I learnt when I first started playing guitar and bass and whatever to recordings back in the early days when I was using like a Tascam US 122, awful thing that was. and so now and that kind of thing. ACO wasn't very good then. And the perfect complementary to background. Oh yeah, I can hide myself a little bit now, so you don't need to see all of this. And there we go. That's a bit better, so you can see more screen real estate again. Move that over there. There we go. You can see more of what's going on now. And so, yeah, I used to have to deal with some terrible latency issues. And so, because that was in my formative years, I learnt based on my surroundings. I mean, that's what you do. So, I learnt to play a little bit ahead all the time. And it's not necessarily the best thing. I do have to keep an eye on myself when I'm tracking, but generally speaking, I've found that if I just go with it, and then at the end just move everything back by a few milliseconds, it has a more laid-back feel to it, and generally doesn't feel off time if I do that. So, yeah, let's listen now. Right, I am going to slap some virtual mix rack on here right now, because that dingy ding in the bass is a little more present than I thought it was when I was tracking. I thought some of that was actually the sound of the strings coming through their headphones, and it wasn't. So that's fine. It just means that I need to take a quite specific SSL EQ. Was it that 4K region? Let's find it. There, more like 7K. That was the bright switch pulled out. Obviously I didn't need that, so let's just dip that out a bit. Oh, right, you're talking about when I turned on the tuner, yeah. Right, okay, so that now. With a gentle bit of compression there in opto mode, so circuit 2 on that compressor. Dell Optiplex for 30 quid. I'm going to have to read up on some of this stuff. I'm going to be building a new studio computer at some point soon. And not with old second-hand stuff, but I am going to be using my spare parts to build a studio streaming computer, so we can do more of this live from the studio. Oh no, you do not suit this track, sir. No, you do not. There we go. Nice bit more analog saturation, but a bit of an EQ dip to match. That should sit in the mix really well. pause there. So yeah, Al's asking in chat, am I the bass player on the album? The diplomatic answer is I am one of the bass players on the album. So far, this is the third song we've mixed and the second bass part that I've played. Ricky changes from song to song. Some of the songs are more electronic, so obviously my services would not be required in that case. There's also a bass player whose his stage name Rex is a friend of ours, and he played on one of the other songs and may play on other songs as well. It's just a session part for me. If Ricky says to me, well, we need a bass part, can you play it? I go, oh, okay. I mean, for a short while, with the previous band of Ricky's Piston Funk Machine, I was the lead guitar player for a while. And we played a Christmas song at one point, which I may have played for you, which I think I did something like a 5 or 6 part guitar harmony over the top as the main riff. It was very much like Christmas Time by The Darkness.
Live, let me breathe.
Yes, join us on the Discord.
I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Let's continue to check this bass. Check.
Let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my
Okay, so apart from cleaning that section up, I think we're good. First time. So I'm just going to solo the drums and the bass and make sure they fit. No, the drums, not the guitars. Here's the thing, that sounds good, but it's taking up almost too much of the real estate in the sound. Oh, look at that valley in the EQ right there. So, load it up. Those cymbals are quite a lot in this song. Oh. So this is where I was talking before about tailoring. Like that's a good general drum sound, but compared to one of the other songs, I think it was Happiness, which had the occasional bad, this has a lot of aggressive crashing going on, and so I've had to tame that overhead down quite a bit there. Well, if you want a lightning button that shocks me just for the hell of it, I'll install one, but it's going to be one of those things where you do a $50 tip or something and it gives me a shock because, you know, it's got to be worth it. I hate stuff like that. I'm generally quite a gentle person, but like I was that kid where, you know, people went up and shocked you in the ribs and that kind of stuff. If someone did that to me, I would turn around and lamp them. How do I choose when to use re-EQ versus re-EQ? I use this one now, and it is good. I generally tend to use this one just when I'm not thinking, the old one, and I use this one a lot more because it's better and it's pretty and it's got more functions and it's just much more intuitive. And it can do stereo, left, right, mid, and side all in the same EQ, so it's far more useful. So yeah, this one did not come with Reaper. This one is separate. You have to install it separately, and I like it. So I'm using that a lot. Now, on to the difficult questions. Like, how do we get the rhythm guitar to fit properly? First things first with this, let's use a copy of re-EQ on the rhythm and just listen to this soloed. All sorts of random shit recently. Random person watching my tutorials on Instagram. It's kind of weird. Cool. Sure. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I mean, if you really, really, really need a million EQs and they all have to be really low CPU usage, then use the kind of the old original one. There's no point in me having two virtual mix racks there just to turn the volume up. That's a waste of CPU. When I'm already doing this, and I can just turn up the overall output there. That was weird. Mouse got stuck. Right, so that nice little lead line needs to really poke out. And so that can have... that has some nice reverb on it already. So the main thing that this one's going to need is just really like kill that low end because it don't need it. Kill that high end because it don't need it. And then just a gentle push in the area that I like and want to stand out of the mix. And let's see this in context and see if that's done the trick. I'm just going to mute the vocals for a bit until we find space for them, because they're just a nuisance right now. I have used the multi-band gate on drums. It's not bad, but it's not what I want to use. It's fine. I might come back to it at some point. But right now, I mean, it is kind of a cool gadget. But yeah, I also saw Glenn using it and was quite impressed. But I've used multi-band gates from Boz Labs before, and they do a thing. And especially on Tom's, I really liked it, but yeah, it just kind of fell out of favour for me. But it'll probably it'll make a comeback. Right, so first things first, these reggae clean guitars have got far too much low end in them. So they need a proper cleanup. Let's start by just copying this over. There we go. There we go. So I've got these cool reggae effects, which also need a lot of low end taking out. If I was doing this on an analog board, I would just be reaching for the low control and just going, nope. Because stuff like this is supposed to not have any low end. Because all that mud that you can hear, that's just interfering with the mix. And then I'm going to add an extra band on this because I know what's coming up. There. It's going through a resonant peak and it's quite nasty, so that has to go. See how that works in a mix, but that might just need to be automated downwards for that little bit. gonna just get rid of that. Because that's just nasty. And no one's gonna miss it with 8 guitars going. There we go. That's a nice sound, but that again needs some mud clearing out. In fact, I think I'm going to copy... No, not that one. I'm going to copy the older one. That one, because that's just saving me time by having these already. There we go. And then those 2 end chords are muddy as you like. Because when I'm picking guitar tones, I'm not necessarily thinking about, like, oh, this has too much low end or not enough low end. I'm trying to think in terms of, oh, this feels like it'll fit for this particular part. When I'm getting guitar tones, I do tend to go more off feel. Which does sound a little counterintuitive at first. There we go. There's another kind of mid honk here somewhere. There. Doesn't need. The low cut can be a bit less steep. There we go. See, that, compared to that, there we go. Oh. 21 Pilots. Huh. Bitty bitty puppy. Make sure they end a little sooner. Octave. So they can have their own folder. I mean, I've been having fun recently with a lot of, saturation and that kind of stuff, but especially when I've got loads and loads and loads of guitars, it really is important to just clear out a lot of these frequencies that we just don't need. Come on. I'll leave that as a... See all this stuff going on in the top? Why do we want guitar information at 18 kilohertz? It's not helping. Kill it. It sounds like we're losing a little something. But in the context of the mix, that'll make it clearer because the top end now has more room for more cymbals. And if it doesn't feel loud enough, turn it up. And there's more room for it to be turned up. That's the clever thing. Right. that needs two things, and I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to put a re-EQ on there, and I'm going to put micro shift in there, because this is one of my favourite tricks you'll have seen. It's from Sound Toys. This mono guitar will suddenly expand stereowards. There we go. It's also a big ball of useless noise right now because of all that extra frequency crap. So let's clean out a lot of this stuff. I mean, what's that? I mean, it's quite messy, but if I can poke that out specifically, compare that to... Maybe I'll add an extra band just to try and find somewhere where it's a very obvious radio effect and just kill that specific frequency. There. The way that it was mashing the guitar made a certain resonance. Save button, yes. I've been saving regularly, fear not. Let's try that with a little bit more output volume in the mix. That should stand right out now. Right, so... still too much low end. Right, that's quite messy, but it's very much on purpose, so... It's time to add in everybody's favourite Muse style section. Reggae end. And we've got our octave done. We've got our dissonance to deal with, and then we're just about home free. So we've got our scratch. Wiki. So this is gonna need another copy of Rico. That doesn't need anything else. That actually sounds quite nice. But it does need a healthy dose of delay. Where are ye? Yeah. Yeah. And some of that sweet vocal plate. And because we've scooped all the crap out, it's ringing in some really nice frequencies without picking up stuff we don't want. Okay, so now we've got to fit our dissonant guitars in there. And we're largely home and dry. So start by copying this over. Really be aggressive with this one. So we've cut a lot of that low end rubbish out, and yeah, we've just cut a lot out here. And this one can have some plate and some delays. Yeah, there we go. Let's just see how that plays out just against the other guitar. Cool. So, that... Huh. With all those EQs and that kind of stuff... The only one that doesn't fit now is that lead. Let's go back to that. That is like a square peg in a round hole. Let's give it quite a lot of stuffy low mids on purpose, but give it quite a bit of delay. Reverb even. Just scoop out more low end and see how that plays out. We'll see if that works, because especially at the end, that might be the antidote. Okay, I think we're getting there. That gets very busy at the end. But once we've got the other elements in, I think that'll be a case of a bit of automation to make sure that that just fits nicely.
The faster I run, the harder I fall on my knees.
So let's just tuck
You
that
pick
in.
me apart, leave a hole in my heart, so it seems.
So this is another classic Ricky vocal. So I'm going to do that thing again where I just pull in a vocal setting from Happiness, because it's probably same mic, same room, same everything, and just see how far that gets me. Oh, I do like cherry rum. Now let's see how... Oh, there's a lot more vocals on this, but all I'm really interested in right now is what I've done with the vocals and what's on the vocal group. So there's a tape on the vocal group, and the mix bus saturation. So not a lot. And then this, which I'm just going to copy this wholesale and then examine in a minute what that meant. Paste.
The faster I run, the harder I...
Oh, it's got quite a bit of delay in there, which I'll have to knock down because that's going to interfere. Fuck. Can't spell for toffee today.
The faster I run, the harder I fall on my knees.
Let's get some tape going.
You pick me apart, leave a hole in my heart, so it seems.
And
Days come and go, I've got nowhere to go when you leave.
make sure that that's on.
But I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Let's see how this sounds.
Faster I run, the harder I fall on my knees. Just let me live. Let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Greetings.
When I'm left alone, I just put to appease.
Yeah, so just for those who came in rather later, the guitar tones are a combination of my new Mesa V-Twin preamp and 5050 power amp for the heavier stuff, and a Marshall JCM 800 for the less heavy stuff, which is how we're ending up with some of these big fuzzy tones.
And when I show you, you'll believe. 'Cause I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Said I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live. Let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live. Let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live. Let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live. Let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my. Just let me live. Let me live, let me live.
Yeah, I do like the V-Twin. Basically, the V-Twin plus a Mesa power amp basically is a dual rectifier. It's not in terms of some of the tiny details, but it may as well be. But yeah, this is mostly a doubled vocal, so I've copied the settings over from one to the other, but I really put this multiplier and stereo width up on the second vocal, turn the low end down and turn the overall volume down on the second.
The faster I run, the harder I fall on my knees. You pick me apart, leave a hole in my heart, so it seems.
There we go.
Days come and go, I've got nowhere to go when you leave. But I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live. Let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live. Let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. When I'm left alone, I just play on the phone to appease the thoughts in my head that are wrestling me dead with unease. I know what to do when I show you, you'll believe. 'Cause I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Said I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live. The faster I run, the harder I fall on my knees. You pick me apart, leave a hole in my heart, so it seems.
Must have really been don't know why that's compressing so heavily. The previous song must have had much quieter toms. There we go. So if I take the trimmer down and then output up on that floor tom, we might hear it then.
I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live. Let me live, let me live. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my. I've got a plan. Just let me live, let me live, let me live, let me breathe. I've got a plan and I'm hiding it under my sleeve.
Cool. So I think this is probably a good place to end the stream for this evening because I've got a roughly nice vocal sound. I've got to add in all these harmony and like gang vocals that go ah, ah, and then I'll be with fresh ears looking at automation and small EQ moves. Maybe a little bit of bus compression because this is quite an aggressive song just to try and make that fit. And just bringing that all together. And hopefully that's not going to take me very long. So yes, I am just about there on this song, but it's just going to be beyond that 3-hour mark, which is I have found a good place to stop and get some fresh brain. So at this point, yes, I think that's the end of tonight's stream. What day is it? Is it Wednesday already? It's my birthday this week, so I don't know what day I is. Yes, so tomorrow is the Hot Pole Position podcast at 8 p.m. Do tune in. It's going to be good fun as always. Liam will be back, and I am asking around now for lots and lots of special guests. So there's going to be special guests on the podcast over the next couple of months, and I'm very, very excited. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So stick around. Probably finish this on Friday evening. And then I'll be in the studio all day Saturday filming for the next round of videos, which are stacking up and up and up and up and up and up. But that's the way it kind of has to be right now, is lots and lots and lots of filming. And then there's going to be a phase of lots and lots of editing. And then you'll see video, 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 video. So I'm rambling. And thank you everybody for watching. It's been a pleasure as always. It's been good to get back in the swing of things. Feels like I've not been doing this for forever. Hey, how are you? Yes, brilliant. Thank you. But unlucky timing. We are finishing the stream at this point. So, yes, thanks everybody for tuning in. Ask me again about the tape plugin next time I see you, and I'll be able to give you a much more in-depth answer. So the answer is just yes. Lots. Now, I will see you all tomorrow evening for the podcast. Ciao for now.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, feel free to check out our other videos, as you can find here, or check out our Facebook and Twitter, or our Patreon page, which helps us to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.